I'm going to try this again. I went to Vietnam in September, late September of 1968. I was a second lieutenant in the Army Field Artillery, and I witnessed quite a lot of things, participated in quite a lot of things. I'm going to relate one incident, and this occurred in April. I have on my letters April 17th, 1969. I think it was about that time. Now, I'd come in, I was an FO, forward observer with an infantry company for a number of months. Then I was firing battery executive officer for a number of months. And this was a case when I was firing battery executive officer. We had just come off an operation west of Quang Tri, very far west, and drove through Quang Tri, Camp Red Devil, and went into the DMZ up to a place, a fire base called Charlie 2, C2. C2 was a nice, clean, it was just great. I'd been on C1, it's pretty bad, wet, it was just bad. But anyway, we went in, and as we got in the afternoon, I noticed that all the vegetation was cleared away for about a mile around C2. It's a very comfortable place, had concrete pads for the howitzers and so forth. We were in support of the 3rd of the 5th Cav. We had A Troop in front of us on the front side of the hill. We were behind the back side of the hill facing north. And B Troop in with us, and we could see Charlie Troop. They're about 1,000 to 1,200 meters out, maybe a little further, but 1,200 meters seemed to be right. But you could see them. See their APCs, armored personnel carriers, M113A1s, and tanks. They had about, I think, 4 tanks, and the rest armored personnel carriers. And I could be wrong about that. This is a long time ago. But they maneuvered, and while they get in, we were getting in too, and we get the battery laid, and we're ready to go. And it was quiet. It was quiet as the evening set on, which is unusual. Usually there's counter battery and so forth on the DMZ back and forth with the North Vietnamese all the time, just nonstop. You could go on a fire base and someone would be firing. A battery would be firing. Several batteries would be firing. But anyway, there was no action. About 7:30, approximately 7:30, we got a fire mission. It was reported to me, fire direction does the computations in the XO, fires the howitzers, and does a lot of other things too. But anyway, they reported Russian helicopters, and we fired about, I say, battery 2, something like that. End of mission. Nobody. It was just nothing. This is about 7:30, give or take 10 minutes there. Everything's still quiet. Everything's still quiet. At 8 o'clock on the dot, the North Vietnamese fired 12 mortars abreast. They started on the north side of Charlie Troop's perimeter and walked that abreast line of mortars all the way across the perimeter to the south side of the perimeter. And that's pretty bad. But, I mean, it was fairly quick. It was fairly quick. As soon as they came across, cut to the south side of the of Charlie Troop's perimeter, they opened up with RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, which was a common weapon. Mortars and RPGs are very common. At least Vietnamese used them, and the North Vietnamese used them. And they make a flashbulb-like flash when they hit something, when they hit an APC or tank or whatever they're firing at. These were popping like flashbulbs, like popcorn, popping, pop, pop, pop. It was just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. They were firing in there. Red tracers from the American unit, C Troop, went out of the perimeter. Green tracers from the North Vietnamese went in. And my battery was firing illumination or flares. One north of the perimeter and one south of the perimeter. That's Charlie Troop's perimeter. And we could see the tracks and the dust building up. We were receiving all kind of spent ammunition. it was like hail bouncing in on us, and we kept it up for a good. It seemed like a long time. It was probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe. I'm guessing. And the dust became there was so much dust kicked up in their position that you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see the tracks anymore. Couldn't see any tanks, any vehicles, anything down in their position. So we still continued to fire. Everybody was shooting. There's a 105 battery firing defensive targets for them, an 8-inch battery firing defensive targets for them, and all of a sudden we heard check fire, check fire, check fire. We stopped, and we heard all these helicopters. All the lights were out. As they really got close to their position, 2 helicopters turned on their lights and dropped down low. And they received fire, green tracers going up to the helicopters. The green tracers were the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, and the red tracers from our gunships going back. So they had an exchange of fire there. And they backed off. They could not bring the helicopters in. So we continued to fire. We started to fire again. Same stuff. We're doing illumination. The batteries are doing defensive targets. Called DEFCONs, defensive concentrations. We're doing that. And this went on for what seemed like a long time. It was probably 5 minutes, maybe, or it could have been 10 minutes, but I would say 5 minutes, pretty quick. We got a check fire again. Everything stopped. A large flare aircraft came over. Air Force dropped a flare that was so large you could see a county if you wanted to. Underneath was Puff the Magic Dragon. It's a C-47 with a Gatling gun. That Gatling gun, every 5th round is a red tracer. And when the Gatling gun went off, it was just like a fire hose of tracers, and it made this burping sound, like that. And it went around from the west side of the perimeter all the way around to the top of the perimeter, and made a complete circle around the Charlie troops' perimeter with a Gatling gun. And there's a little valley or arroyo, something like that, to the north side of Charlie troops' location, and it poured a Gatling gun. It squirted its ammunition down there. Then it flew away, and it stopped the fight. That Gatling gun stopped the fight. It was impressive. And as soon as they got clear, then the helicopters, medevacs, came in. I heard there were about 33 medevacs. I don't know, but there were a lot of helicopters that went down there, and they picked up all these wounded we had down there. It was pretty bad. For the rest of the night, we fired a loom, but at intervals far enough that we just about run out of light, and we'd pop another flare. That's so we had constant light. We didn't run out of ammunition. B Troop was in with us. A Troop was in front of us. C Troop was to our northwest, our front left. And B Troop was inside in with us. So B Troop cranked up, moved out in front of us. I had 2 pieces firing illumination. I had 1 gun down, so I had 5 guns. My centerpiece is fired a recon by fire, which is firing in front of the maneuver element as it moves out. They move it around, and they can, if they run into something, then they can just shift that artillery right over on the target. So they got into the perimeter, and that was it. We just fired a loom for the rest of till dawn broke the next day. But the Gatling gun stopped the fight. We couldn't stop it. Artillery couldn't stop it. We stopped the fight. But, I mean, the Gatling gun stopped the fight. And that was Puff the Magic Dragon.